On everything. Welcome again to Leviton's first next-gen contractor. So I'm just curious, how many of you, this is your first time coming to Nashville? Okay, so most people. Awesome. Well, welcome to Nashville. Welcome to Tennessee. We're going to be talking about something I'm very passionate about, is contracting, business, and more specifically, business planning. So can you go to the intro slide? I'm going to start off by introducing myself, again, kinda. My name's Cameron Vogelsang. I'm an electrical contractor out of the Memphis, Tennessee area. I live about an hour from Memphis out in rural Tennessee, but I do most of my work there, do 90-something% residential. I hit some commercial service calls every now and then. Started in the trade in 2020 in the middle of all the craziness. No trade experience whatsoever, didn't grow up in the trades, just played sports and did that. And I was looking for a job and started on with a little mom and pop shop out in rural Tennessee. Then I started my social media pages, my Instagram page in 2022. And it's very cool because back then, even before I created my page, I was following a lot of electrical influencers. And I was inspired, you know, I'm going to do my own page and just post my work. And I'll admit, those of you that we've been in connection for a long time, I used to do really stupid things around that time. And in 2023, you know, you live and you learn and got better and you grow out of things. So, now we're, I think, on YouTube and TikTok, and then just started getting onto LinkedIn a little bit, even though I'm not on there that much. But I had my social pages, started that in 2022, and then I got my license in 2023, opened up shop. Actually, 2 weeks ago was my 2-year anniversary. So I'm starting year 3 now. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. So entering year 3, and in Tennessee's a little bit different from other states. There's all kinds of different requirements wherever you go. But I got a minimum electrical license back in 2023. Just to open up shop and start doing work for myself. And then it was just a few months ago, I got my electrical contractor's license, and basically that's good for the entire state and have, of course, a bigger monetary cap than what I used to. I'm also the VP of Public Relations for Energize Us EDU, and our CEO and founder is also here in the back, Will Patansis. Glad he could join us. And that kind of leads us into the material we're going to be looking at this afternoon. So if you could whip out your phones, and all of you should have gotten an email in like the past 15 minutes. So open up your email that you have with Sydney, and you should have a file in there, PDF of an abbreviated version of our Builders Blueprint Workbook that we developed at Energize Us EDU. And Patrick Bet-David, some of you may know who he is, a big time entrepreneur guy. He helped us develop that. He's one of our advisors for our school. All right, so if you go ahead and just whip that out, and we're going to have slides, but we're mainly going to be going through the workbook. All right, let's see. All right, second question I have for you guys. How many of you are first-year contractors? Raise of hands. First year, how about 2 to 4 years? 2 to 4, any 5+ in here? 5+ years? Okay, yeah, so you...
I sold, I had it for 5 years and I sold it.
Okay, yeah. All right, awesome. All right, so basically all of us are relatively new to this, right? And so we're all in the same boat and have a lot of the same pain points. And it's been good to talk to a lot of you last night at dinner and even at lunch, and just hearing y'all's stories and experiences and what you feel like has gone well and what's going good, and then also with that what you're struggling with. And it's not about focusing on negativity. It's not about being a downer, but there's some things that we have to talk about and address, in a professional manner. So a lot of us have similar stories when we became a contractor. I know, at least for me, when I started out, I started working for someone. I think that's most the case for you guys. Some of you went to trade school, and then some of you may have not, but you started out working for someone. That's the point. You start out working for someone, and then what happens when you start doing a trade for long enough? What happens? You start getting some phone calls, right? Some little stuff. And side work, you shouldn't be doing that, technically, probably, but we don't know how that goes. But for us electricians, it usually starts out with a ceiling fan swap, or like my receptacle doesn't work, or my breaker, little stuff, right? and you're working for someone, and then you're doing that on the side. And then you realize how much money you can make doing this on your own. So instead of getting paid whatever you get paid, you go and charge $100, $150 for a GFCI swap, right? And so you start getting a little bit more of that over time, and we really like that, right? But then you start building a little clientele base, right? You start getting a clientele base, and you start getting more phone calls, and then a lot of us have been inspired to get our license, right? And again, that varies from state to state. In some states, you have to have 8,000 hours. In some states, in Tennessee, you don't have to have any hours. They just, there's nothing on their website that's objective. They just approve you based on your letters of recommendation and your experience. And then I guess you find out. But a lot of us, that's how we started, right? That's how we started going in the trades, and that's how we started and got into contracting. All right, so the money gets good, and then you start getting more clients, and then you get your license, right? And then you, at some point, make that leap to go out on your own. And for me, I was kind of forced out of my job. I was given an ultimatum. I know we all have different stories when it comes to that, but I had an ultimatum, and so I had to quit my job sooner than what I thought. So I was kind of thrown out there way before I wanted to. All right, so we made that jump on our own. But then, as you know, when you start out contracting, what's the number one thing that you're focused on? What you would say when you first start out? What's the number one thing? And that's not a rhetorical question. Someone can just go ahead. Leads, like actually getting jobs, right? That's the number one thing, is having that cash flow come in, because you can only survive so long without an income, right? But because before, it was really good because we still had our full-time job, and then we had our side work. And so it was really going good. But then when we went on our own, it's like, oh crap, I don't have that other paycheck coming in. This is my full-time day job. And it was the weirdest feeling when I quit. I think I quit like my last day was on a Thursday or Friday, and then I went to NICA for a few days in 2023 and came back, and it was like a Monday or Tuesday, and I woke up for the first time in my adult life, and I was like, wow, okay, this is it. I'm on my own. I got to go find the work on my own. I can't rely on anybody else now. So a lot of us have similar stories on how we got started, and we start this contracting journey, and we're working, right? We're focusing on leads. Well, then what would you say happens like year 2 or 3, for those of you who've been in a little bit longer than a year? What are some of the pain points that you feel when you start getting into 2nd, 3rd year?
Taxes, paperwork, it's all the things you need to operate. And operate properly.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're hiring, all the paperwork, all this business stuff, right? So if you haven't outsourced that or some of that yet by hiring or getting a CPA, now not only are you worried about the field skills or actually doing the actual physical work, but now you have all this other stuff going on, which I would argue takes up more time a lot of times than the actual work in the field. All right, so then what happens? You start really feeling it, right? You start feeling the pressure, and as time goes on, if we don't develop systems for our business, if we just keep our heads down and focus on the work and the jobs and the day-to-day, and if we don't lift our head up to look around and see what the heck's going on, that's what's going to lead to burnout. And there are so many contractors that we don't even know about. They don't have social pages. Some of them may do, that end up shutting down because of the key principles that we're talking about today. All right, so we get into having all those things because we are wearing all the hats, right? We're wearing the office admin hat. We're wearing the lead tech hat. We're wearing the business owner hat. And you can see real quick how that all starts to bog down on us. And then, we're kind of scrambling all the time. All right. So when we talk about contracting, all right, electrical contractor, I would argue, and some may disagree, but I would argue that when you become a contractor, you are leaving electrician. You're leaving the field. You're leaving, of course, when you first start, you got to do electrical work, right? But when we take on that title, when we pursue this, you are now transitioning, however long it takes. Some people it's quicker than others, but we are slowly transitioning out of electrician to business owner to contractor. And so I hope that makes sense and that y'all agree with me on that, because it's a totally different ballgame when we're talking about field skills and you don't have to worry about anything else other than your job, versus running this train, and not only running it, but keeping it running for generations, even if that's your goal. So when we're trained in the hard skills, we know how to do the installs, but our industry doesn't teach us any of this stuff. Would you guys agree? Those of you who are in trade school, those of you who just worked a job, because I didn't go to trade school, I learned everything on the job, and all I learned was how to do the task at hand. None of this other stuff, we learned it. Yeah, no, well, yeah, some people may want to learn it, but our industry just doesn't teach this side of things. We're just taught the hard skills, and we're going to talk about hard skills, soft skills in a little bit. But we're trained in the hard skills, and we know how to do the installs. I would say that all of us in here have pretty good hard skills, right? Or else we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We know how to do the job, but then we lack on the business stuff, which can shut you down so fast, all right? And if you want to be an electrician, that's fine. If that's what you want to be, there is nothing wrong with that in any shape, way, or form. But what we always preach in our Contractors Association is that this may not be for you. And we never want to force people to do something that they're really not passionate about or they really don't want to do. And it's interesting because we had a contractor who Will actually went through this workbook with them. And he used to have a decent social media page. Most of you probably knew him, but I'm not going to obviously say his name. But he went through this workbook, and he was so thankful for the material in this workbook about business planning and, you know, what does success mean for you. And guess what happened after he went through the workbook? He wasn't a contractor anymore. He was like, thank you so much for showing me what the industry has to offer and all the different avenues that we have. And he realized that entrepreneurship wasn't for him. And so he shut down, and I'm pretty sure he has like a really good job running someone else's electrical company. And so that's what we want to do, is not only, of course, we're going to be biased in promoting contracting, but we also want to just help people get where they want to get, right? So what we want to do here at Next Gen Contractor is give you the tools and resources to set you up for success, because we want to take you from tradesmen, all right, electrician, to business builders, business owners, contractors. And so we're already on this slide, actually. Yep, every business starts with a plan, and every contractor starts with a contract, but with themselves first. And so the contract, what's the point of a contract? Just real simple.
Defining terms.
Defining terms, right? It's an agreement between two parties, like you and the client, right? And what does it outline? It outlines the expectations, but it also outlines, or it keeps us accountable. So it outlines expectations, it outlines a scope of work that's going to be done, and it holds both parties accountable. Because when's the only time you need a contract to use it? When something goes wrong, right? When something goes wrong, that's the only time you whip it out. So it's for accountability, right? So just like we do contracts, hence contractor, all right? Just like we do contracts, agreements with customers, not only that, but we need to apply that to ourselves. So just like in business, when we write a contract up before we start a job, right? Before we start anything, we must have a contract, a written agreement with ourselves to set clear expectations with ourselves. So once again, the point of a contract is a scope of work, expectations. How do you know if the work's getting done how it's supposed to? You go back to the contract, right? So how are you supposed to know how good you're doing in business if you don't have a contract set up with yourself? Like you can measure it based on money, which I think is, that may be like a shallow, way to look at it. But you can always look at your money coming in and coming out. But our businesses are way bigger than just money, right? Like we want to have purpose in what we're doing. So just like in business, when we do contracts, we need to have contracts with ourselves to set clear expectations with ourselves to hold us accountable and make sure that we're doing what we want to do. So for the past 2 years, 2024 and 2025, our crew at Energize Us EDU, we traveled the U.S. Meeting contractors and electricians from all over the country. We did several events in 2024. We did podcasts with several contractors, electricians all over the country, had networking events. And what we discovered was that many contractors are facing the same issues, experiencing the same pain points when it comes to contracting. And it happens because of this. Number one, you open up shop and the number one focus, again, is cash flow, which isn't a bad thing. That's what you need to be focusing on when you first start out. Money coming in. and you need the jobs, and that's your main focus, as it should be, right? But 2, when you start, you're wearing all the hats, like we mentioned earlier. Not only are you the business owner, you're also the lead tech, again, the office staff, the estimator, which would explain the long hours and long nights, right? It's not easy first starting out. You're doing all this stuff, and then with the stress too, right? And then you get several months in a year and a couple months in, and if you haven't written a contract with yourself, right? Because I didn't have any of this information even in 2024. All right, I was just flying by the seat of my pants, just saying yes to everything, saying yes to every job, and then I've never gotten like I've never had a job that went like super south. Some of you may have had that, but I should have said no to several things, and it ended up costing me more time and money if I would have just said no and waited for that good lead to come in, right? So we discovered many contractors are facing these same issues, and when they get like a few years in, remember, we're tradesmen, right? We're good at the hard skills, but no one taught us this other stuff. And so when we get a couple years in, and if you don't have a contract and don't set clear expectations for yourself, you're going to be all over the place, right? Like I know like one of my best friends, he has a few crews, and he started the same time as me. And we don't talk as much now just because just life and him being busy and stuff and me. But he has all these crews, but yet he's still like in year 3 up till like 2 a.m. doing estimates. I'm like, bro, I get it when you're first starting out because we don't want to like act like business is this like hunky-dory, kumbaya stuff, all right? But I'm like, dude, like we're in the same time frame, year 3, and you're still doing estimates like that late. You're still like worried about what you're going to do tomorrow. You see like how like that's a problem, all right? And that's what a lot of contractors face because we don't know how to do this stuff. And so that's why we need to have networking events, learn from others, coaching, whatever it may be. And so all that to say, we have found that contractors have the hard skills. They're really good at what they do. Everyone does, for the most part, good quality work. Everyone says they do good quality work, but many lack the soft skills to run a healthy business and a sustainable business. That's what we've found with contractors all across the country. So the contract with yourself is very important. It's how we gauge how well we are doing in our business. So does that make sense? Cool. All right, to go along with, I don't think we have the slide for this one, but it's fine. To go along with the contract, also want to bring up an analogy in the workbook. And if you're scrolling through that PDF, you'll see, and y'all have the super nice, colorful version in your PDF. And y'all can do whatever you want with this, print it out and fill it out on your own. There's a ton of questions in this workbook that we don't have time for all of us to like sit down and fill everything out. But on the GPS analogy, if you look in your PDF, you'll see that it says, imagine driving from New York to Florida. Josh, dude, that's you, man. Where you fly. Imagine driving from New York to Florida, and we know that you need to go south. I hope most of us know that you have to go south. All right, but what are some things you have to consider when you go on a road trip? You have to consider like how you're actually going to get there. I mean, yeah, some of us could like at least get on an interstate and just start heading in that direction. But we need a GPS or a map so that when we start having to make decisions, we have to get on a different interstate or whatever, we know how to get to our destination, right? So we need this GPS to help us navigate how we get to where we want to go. So we're heading south, and we're heading in the general direction. We're taking that initiative, all right? So just think about this analogy in relation to business. We are getting in the car, we're going. In other words, I would say getting your license and then opening up shop, that's taking initiative, right? You don't have to have every single last detail figured out. But the fact that you got in the car and left is step number 1. The fact that you quit your job and opened up shop is step number 1. And when you open up shop, that's taking initiative, and we're going to be heading in some sort of direction, right? Into this direction of entrepreneurship. But we need to know which route is the fastest so we don't waste time. Who likes wasting time on a road trip? I don't like wasting time. I don't like taking all kinds of detours and stuff. I want to know the fastest way to get to my destination. Do you plan to take tolls when you're driving? Do you want to pay a little bit more in tolls, or do you want to just take the regular route to get to where you're going? All right. Where exactly are we going in Florida? Are we going to the beach? Are we going to Disney World? Are we going to the club in Miami? You know, like, what are you bringing with you on your trip? Like why are we going here? So the same in our business. If we don't have a GPS, if we don't know which route we're taking, it's going to be very stressful, tiresome, and end up in a lot of wasted time. All right, and we were talking about that a little bit last night. Like you were saying that you just focus on new construction homes and not so much service, really, for your own reasons, right? So even that specific, like I'm going to focus on this avenue with these certain people, and you even mentioned taking your phone number off your website and your cars because you're tired of getting phone calls. Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. Y'all have direction on where you want to go with your business, at least for now, the foreseeable future, right? So just like a GPS guides us to our destination, this Builders Business Blueprint will help, or will be our GPS for, it says in there 2025, but 2026, right? So this is the perfect time to start working on this stuff in Q4. And we're going to know where we're headed, the route we're going to need, or the route we need to take, avoid delays, and get to our destination as smooth as possible, right? You're going to have bumps in the road. We want to get there as smooth as we can, all right? So that's the contract, that's the GPS analogy. Let's get into the next topic. If you scroll down on your PDF, it's called the foundation. I think it's like on page, 7 or 8 or something in your workbook. All right, so the foundation. We've talked about a contract with ourselves. We talked about the analogy with the contract. Now we're going to talk about the foundation of your business. And there's a quote there in bold. It says, a business plan is only as strong as the individual following it. And then it says there, the expression says, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Have any of you guys seen The Prophet? It's an older show. Marcus Lemonis was the host on it. Yeah. So what Marcus would do is he, on every episode, it usually started with the company reaching out to him and they wanted his help, right? Like consultation, mainly investment. They wanted an investment. They want him to invest in their company and help them turn it around, because most of the time the companies were drowning, like they're about to, close down, or they just wanted help, whatever, right? So he would go in and look at the company, like stay there like a day or two, see how everything operates, and then he would make an offer, all right? So make some kind of monetary offer, but then, do you guys remember what he would say usually at the end of his offer? He would say, and I'm in complete control. And that just like would fluster the business owners. Like, and that was, you kind of knew how things were going to go based on their reaction to that. All right. So then he would get in, and a typical episode, there's like sometimes like it goes smooth or whatever, but then sometimes there's a lot of drama. Right. And usually it would end up either going really south or it would end up working out. But you know what the number one issue was? Those of you who watch the show, remember what the number one issue was? It was usually the business owner. The business owner was the bottleneck. Like, they're the ones that were holding up the company. They're the ones that were causing whatever stuff they were struggling with. Right? It always came back to the business owner, whether they just had character issues or just whatever it may be. It always went back to the owner, right? And so the foundation is going to be resting on us as the business owner. And this isn't a blame game. This isn't like one of those things like, you look at yourself in the mirror. Like, it's none of that. It's about being self-aware of mainly our weak points, all right? We're only going to be better leaders and better business owners if we acknowledge our weak spots, which is hard, but not only acknowledging them, but doing whatever we need to do to improve that. Because whenever you improve as a person, your business is also generally going to improve as well. All right. So the goal isn't to point fingers, it's to identify where improvement is needed, because you can't fix what you don't know, right? You can't fix what you don't know. And every leader, all of us are leaders, whether it's in our family, right? We're husbands, wives, mothers, dads. We're leaders in our businesses, especially if we have employees. So every leader is going to have blind spots, because no one's perfect, right? We all have our blind spots. But the ones who grow as leaders are the ones who are going to seek out and take action on those things. And how does this impact our business? Once again, it has direct effects, because if you grow in awareness, if you're growing as a leader, your business and what that looks like is going to be a byproduct of you. All right. If you're a man or woman of integrity, your business is going to reflect that. If you're doing shady stuff, your business is going to reflect that as well. All right. So if you go down on one of the points on that same page, one of the questions is, what personal habits or limitations do I need to address? And this is another thing that we found with visiting with contractors and business owners across the nation. In our experience, in our conversations, the number one thing that business owners struggle with, it's like the most simple thing. But the number one thing that is like a pain point is just simple communication. Communication and conflict or training, whatever it may be. Like, people, for whatever reason, are just so scared to have a conversation, right? There's like a lot of things to be scared of in life, but communication is like, for whatever reason, a lot of people's number one biggest fear is having a conversation, right? And so that's just one example. You answer these questions however, applies to you, but what are personal habits or limitations I need to address? That is one thing that we have found that is a pain point with a lot of contractors. So before we attack our goals, we need to, one, acknowledge our baseline. So acknowledge our foundation, our structure, our parameters of our business. Identify where we are today so we can build a stronger foundation. All right. Now, this is like my most favorite page that I've been looking forward to. So along with the foundation, as you can see, we're defining the foundation as basically you, the business owner. You're the foundation. All right. So in the foundation, we have this triangle, and you can see on each side, you have the soft skills, and you have the hard skills, and then you have self-development at the bottom. So I want to ask you guys, what would you define as a hard skill? What is that?
Installs.
Okay, installs. Yep.
Yeah, anything practical installations for sure.
Yeah. Anything in the field, basically, right? I would say just getting your license is a hard skill, right? You got to know all that. You got to go test and all that. You can define sales as hard skills, right? Anything field related, licensure, all that's hard skills, which again, like, I think all of us in this room have our hard skills down pat for the most part to do our jobs well. All right. Now, what about soft skills? What are some soft skills?
Your office work, your contracts, your accounting, your payroll, stuff that doesn't necessarily need, like, you need it to have to run the business, but you don't get paid just to do that.
Sure.
You have your skill that your technicians go out, they do the job, they bill it, it comes back to the office, and all the soft skills happen in the office. Soft skills happen in the office or in the field when you have to deal with your customer communication.
There you go. Yeah.
So, like, you do need some soft skills in the field, but primarily your hard skills are going to be in the field, and your soft skills are going to be in the office.
Yeah. So as I appreciate that. That's really good. As the contractor, as a business owner, the soft skills are going to revolve mainly around communication, right? I have some other ones here. Just leadership. Leadership's a soft skill. Communication, integrity, adaptability. So being able to pivot whenever you need to change. Being able to change when you need to, right? Problem solving is a huge one. Problem solving is an example of a hard skill. All right. So I appreciate that, Andrea. All right. So we have the two sides, right? We have the hard skills, soft skills. What about self-development? What's that?
Health and wellness, man.
That is one, yeah.
When I think of self-development, training, mindset as well, kind of like that, maybe spirituality, you tie that into that, I think it can look different for everybody, but
Sure.
for me, that's kind of where I go.
Yeah. So like faith, spirituality, that would be one category of self-development. Your health and wellness is definitely one because that's directly correlated to how you function every day, right? Yeah, setting goals.
I think it's like looking inwards, you gotta be able to tell what you don't do well. And like
Exactly.
being able to tell yourself that and then work on it. So like, okay, I'm not good at that. So I gotta like look at how I can get better at doing that and be able to change.
Sure. Yeah, so continuously learning. What the most frustrating thing is, and be careful how I say this, because those of us who taught us what we know, right, they've been doing it for a long time, right? I always want to give respect to people who are, one, just older than me, and number two, like, who have been in blue collar, been in the skilled trades for longer than I have. I think there's always something to learn from those types of people. Also, in the same breath, what's so frustrating is the guys who have been doing this for so long, they act like that they don't need to change ever. And it's like, well, is it possible? Is it within the realm of possibility that even people who've been in it for 20 or 30 years, they could be doing something wrong? Or could they learn something new? Because no one ever knows everything at any point in life, right? We can always learn. I mean, even the greatest entrepreneurs who are older, they're still learning, they're still growing as a person. So I would say like that, continuously learning and just growing and professional growth is huge, right? Very good. So one thing I noticed about this triangle, I've made some content before, like it was a reel like several months ago talking about like apprentices and like why they're quitting, because we have a lot of apprentices coming into the trade, but then we can't retain a lot of them. So it's like, why is that happening? And I posted a video once kind of just posing the question, and it based on the comments, it was like a literal 50-50 split on the reasons why. 50% of the people were saying that all of this new generation sucks, they're lazy and stuff. And then the other 50%, which is what my video was actually tailored toward, was that it's actually not so much an apprentice issue, it's a leadership issue, right? And there were so many comments that were saying like they had a jerk journeyman, foreman, couldn't stand their boss and jerk, like that kind of attitude. So it's like, I've always wondered how did people that are like that get to their position, right? They're like higher ups. And it seems like, and I think it's a bad move, like as a promotion, but it seems like a lot of people are doing promotions based on the hard skills, right? They got promoted because they were a good worker, right? But they didn't look at their soft skills. They didn't look at their self-development. Like they didn't really assess their character. Oh, there's just a good worker. They know how to do everything, so we're going to promote them, right? And then they're in leadership spots, and then then you have that clash, right, with the new people coming in. So this triangle, I feel like, is just a good representation of what's going to define us as a successful contractor. And you notice how hard skills is only one side of that triangle. You still have to deal with the other two sides that are very closely interconnected, right? Soft skills. I think the soft skills come from the self-development part. What do y'all think?
Lots of times with grounding and self-development, things like this, you don't see it right away. And it's like some people like stop doing it because of that routine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I always have a saying in my head, it doesn't matter if it's a millimeter or a mile, movement's movement. So it's like every day, it's like as long as you do a little bit, I mean, it'll equate to something that's larger, a bigger change.
Yeah.
Cat. Oh, just
Oh.
And you can't really grow if you're focused on one side, your other stuff is gonna be neglected, I'm seeing.
Sure.
My first year, like like you said, hard worker, I can stay up late, I can get a panel upgrade done and do like emergency panel upgrade at 2 in the morning, I got that work ethic, I got that dog in me, but like when it comes to that self-development of finding that balance of the work-life balance and like focusing on growing with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Whew,
Sure.
you start to see how much you lack in all the other stuff once you become your contractor, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Do you have something?
What I love about soft skills and self-development, where I feel like there's a big disconnect, you touched on it, when we're so used to seeing people get promoted for hard skills. And then you come down working for them, and then you crack the whip, then that's where the culture goes on. But where people, especially contractors, really start to lack, or where we can use some help in, is in soft skills and self-development. And what I love about that, sometimes to learn something, you teach me one time, I can do it. Show me how to install this one time, I'm on my own. You can do the same when it comes to soft skills and self-development, in the sense where, remember where you stand, self-development, just like what, in PowerSec? recognize where did I mess up, how do I get better? It's recognizing, you just understand where you currently are. You can literally change overnight. If you are literally one phone call away from always self-developing. Let's say you had a call at 9 o'clock and you gave an estimate, and you oversold, you overpromised just to get a deposit and you can't control that. You can literally stop after that phone call and go, why did I do that? Next phone call, you can change. So this, with the self-development, I want you guys to also recognize that this doesn't have to be a journey of finding yourself, kumbaya, circles around the You can literally improve with every interaction that you have with a person. And then with that complement alongside the hard work that you guys already do, you can just see how it becomes a snowball effect.
Sure. Yeah, and we've seen so many good electricians who are contractors, like amazing at the hard skills, great electricians, but they're horrible right here, horrible. And great electricians, but they're horrible in the other two. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to change. And they're the ones that end up getting shut down. Because I can promise you, I'm probably the least skilled electrician in this room. All right. I've been in the trades for 5 years. All right. So not that long compared to basically all of you guys. But you can have a person stay in business longer than the person who's been doing it for 10 or 15 years just because they lack all this. But it's not just because they lack it. It's they don't want to change. You see? So many guys think that it's just all about the hard skills, but then they wonder why they can't get a job. They can't build a clientele base because they're dressing like bums to the job site. They're cussing on the job sites, and the rest. It's a package deal, right? They're so good at being an electrician, but then they have none of this, and then they just end up falling apart like 2 or 3 years into business. So that's how important this stuff is for us. Being willing and recognizing where our weak spots are and focusing on again, the whole triangle as a whole, like Pristine said. But remember, as tradesmen, we just naturally, generally speaking, we lack sometimes in the soft skills and the self-development, right? But yeah, I appreciate all that feedback. On the same page as the triangle in your PDF, there's a few more questions that you can think on. And again, this business plan, it's the intent is for you to review it every year. So this isn't like a one-time deal that defines the next 30 years of your life. So every like the end of Q4 or like January, actually really into Q4, be reevaluating your business plan. It's okay to change it. Like you may think one thing one year, and then the next year, like that wasn't really a good idea. I don't want to do that anymore, and then pivot, right? So. There's a couple of questions on here. Were my decisions emotional or logical this year? Did you make some decisions just based solely on emotion? And we got to have emotion in business. Like you have to care about people. Like you can't just be like, super cut and dry, right? But how many times did I make a decision based on emotion? How much did I, undercut myself on a price because I felt bad for something? And I don't mean to say like never help someone, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you undercut for whatever reasons, all right? So did you make emotional or logical decisions, and why'd you do those? What goals have I achieved this year? What goals did I miss, and why? Were my decisions based on emotion or logic? And then you go to the next page. The next page in your PDF has a business assessment there, and let's see. Yeah, the business assessment, that's in principle, that's the same thing as the personal assessment, just you can answer these questions however it applies to you. Number one, you can just ask, did you have a business plan for this year? Do you plan on having? I hope that all of you after this event will go home and you can print this abbreviated version now. And again, this is abbreviated version of the whole workbook. The whole workbook's like 50 pages. This is like 28 that you got. But did you have a business plan this year? Are you going to have one next year? Where were you last year? You can start assessing those things like, where did my business start? What milestones did I hit? Do you have revenue goals or do you have profit goals? What did your margins look like? So you can go through that on the business assessment portion on your own time. That leads us into the next slide, the structure. Okay, so we talked about a contract with ourselves, the expectations with ourselves, and having a written contract that gives us accountability. We talked about the foundation, right? That triangle it basically it represents you. You're the foundation of your business. And so then in a new build, so think about new construction terms, right? You have the foundation, right? And if that's compromised, you're gonna like something's about to happen if that foundation is compromised. After the foundation, then what goes up? Yeah, the framing, the structure, right? So in a new build, the structure is going to hold everything together. The structure determines our baseline and our ceiling. All right. So do we want to be a one-man shop? Totally cool. If you want to do everything on your own, I did that for 2 years and got sick of it real quick. That's why I just hired someone back in April, my first hire. Do you want to be a small shop? Totally cool. Do you want to be like 5, 6, 7 crews running? Do you want to be an empire running? Like I visited an electrical company in Kansas City a few years ago. They got like 80 or 90 vans running. Like that. Yeah. It is crazy. Teague Electric, Teague. Yeah, out of Kansas City. Like freaking huge. Like mostly residential and some commercial. All right. And so it's like, what are your intentions? And again, those can change over time, right? But we have to establish a baseline. So are we building a 1-story house? Or are we building a skyscraper? Okay. Nothing ethically, morally wrong with either, right? But what do you want from this business? All right, so the structure is going to, the structure determines the parameters of your business. All right, and this also goes back to, I don't know if we've posed this question yet, but it also goes back to what is success for you? All right, that's a question we pass around a lot of time because success for me may be much different from you. All right, someone may just want to do their own thing as a just one-man shop and they're fine getting their income and just have all kinds of free time with their family, right? And just being able to do whatever they want to do. No dealing with employees or any of that. They don't want to go down that route. Well, then some people do want to go down that route, which that goes to just high risk, high reward, right? The more you put on, higher reward, but higher risk, right? So do you want to be a one-man shop? Do you want to have all these crews running? What does success look like for you? And everyone's going to define that differently. I feel like sometimes, and social media, a lot of it's just perception and, fake. We can't really figure out like what's actually like the truth and what is actually reality. But I feel like in our industry, sometimes like the smaller guy, like people define bigger company. That's like the successful. That's success. If you're like small, then you're not doing something right. And that's not true at all. It's all depends on what you want in your business. There's nothing wrong with staying small. There's nothing wrong with if you want to like get filthy rich with all kinds of, crews. There's nothing wrong with that business-wise either. All right. What is success for you? That's something that we all need to think about. What we define as success. Did you guys know that 20% of first-year contractors quit or shut down within their first year? So 12 months or less. 20% of contractors end up closing shop. Do you know what the percentage is for first 5 years? 50%. So in the first 5 years, half the contractors will end up shutting down shop. Why are they shutting down, you think? You kind of see, yeah. And the burnout is because of why? Because we've seen that so many contractors just have their head down all the time in the day-to-day, and they live like my buddy, like they don't even have time to breathe and like look up and evaluate. What's happening around them, where they want this business to go, taking all these service calls all the time and then trying to do new construction, like all these different avenues, and if you want to diversify, like I'm not here to like tell you what to do, but you see how you can just get so bogged down with the day-to-day and then you can't even see where you're headed, right? You don't even know what's happening around you. So yeah, 50% of contractors close down in the first 5 years. And I had this story in here. It's kind of sad. But one of my buddies, he got his contractor's license like 7 or 8 years ago out of Memphis. And he went to trade school, worked for a company for however long, right? Learned everything that he could. And then he got his license, got a CE license. And then he went out on his own. And he actually was doing really good at first. Like he had 5 or 6 guys working for him like in less than a year. Was doing great. And then it's like, as time went on, like year by year, it's like started losing guys, but he wasn't bringing them back. And then it's like, you know, more complaints were being said and stuff. And just to fast forward through the whole thing, this year, because we used to text, you know, about jobs and stuff. And I texted him once, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm not talking to anybody for I'm not doing any texting or anything for the foreseeable future. I just got too much going on and stuff." I'm like, okay, like, whatever, right? Well, we have mutual friends, so I called my mutual friend. I'm like, "Do you know what's going on with so and so?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, he's bedridden. He's been in bed for like a week and lost like 20 or 30 pounds, not eating. I don't ever think he got hospitalized. Maybe he should have, but yeah, he was so stressed from all the work, and it's because I asked his business partner, I'm like, "Are y'all like slow and you're stressed, or are you like, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh no, we have too much going on." So you can have like too little and be stressed, and then you have too much going on, and that's what happened. Is he got so overwhelmed that he was literally bedridden. He made a Facebook post trying to hire some kid to mow his lawn because he couldn't even mow his lawn. I'm like, dude, like how? I've never heard of this extreme. This is an extreme, right? Like I've never heard of such thing. And his doctor literally told him, "Do not think about work because it might kill you." Like that's how serious. I'm like, dude, this is news. Like I have no idea how this works, but it got really bad, and it was all because of the business stuff. And it's not demonizing contracting, right? But you see how if we're not building this thing right, if we're not doing the right things we need to do as business owners, how like all this stuff can just come to a head. And that's an extreme, example. But yeah, he left his business, and some other things happened in his life that were good, and he ended up just leaving his business, and now he's a truck driver, and now he's happy. But he won't even speak about the trade. Like he don't even want to talk about it because it just like it's like some PTSD stuff, or I don't know. It's like super deep stuff that I don't even try to figure out. But the point of all this is if we don't have a handle on our business, the business is going to handle us, and it's going to dictate how all this goes, right? And a business isn't a personal being. Like, we have to run this. We have to control it. All right. Don't mean to scare anybody with that story.
It's sobering.
We all have those.
Yeah.
Hey, honestly, by show of hands, if I could just ask, how many other of you guys have felt sick or run down sometimes from jobs? Because there's been times where I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know if I can do this anymore." Real talk. It can be tough.
Yeah, for sure. So questions to ask yourself: how long do you see yourself doing this? And again, we get older and priorities change, right?
Yeah.
But how long do you see yourself doing this? What do you envision your company to look like? So the structure basically defines what is possible in our industry, right? What is possible in your business? What's your ceiling, right? What's your baseline and what's your ceiling in your business? All right, so we're kind of running out of time, aren't we? Okay. Do we have this on the slide or no? I don't think so.
No.
Okay, so in your PDF, in your email, go to I don't know what page it is, I'm sorry. In your email, there's gonna be a picture that looks like this, all right? So when we talk about longevity, right? We talk about what's your ceiling and what's your baseline. There's this picture in your PDF that shows pictures of the businesses. And if you guys have already read ahead, you already know what I'm about to say, all right? So the longest operating company in the world, you see how long it's been? The longest company in the world has been in existence since 578 AD. You can Google it, look it up, Wikipedia it, and guess what kind of company it is? It's a contracting company. It's a construction company. It's from Japan. I don't know if that makes a difference, but yeah, the oldest operating company in the world is Kongo Jumi, 578 AD, and it's a contracting company. All right, so again, like that's crazy stuff, right? I don't think my company's gonna last for 1,500 years. But if you're like, oh, that's Japan, that's like, like a one-off thing. Well, look at the next picture. The next picture, the oldest company in the U.S., the oldest operating contracting company in the U.S. is 1830. All right. 1830. So you can see, I mean, sky's the limit for your business, once again. So why are we getting into business? And then we have in the picture you'll see under that, it says the same path and the crazy path. And again, the same path, right? All of us can have a good electrical job at some company and get a pension and get like insurance and, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? It makes sense to do that, right? What doesn't make sense is the crazy path, the contractor path. Sometimes it doesn't make any logical sense. And you can see why you have to have a why in your business, why you do it, right? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing contracting? Because nothing's guaranteed. I mean, I know you can have a job technically, it's not guaranteed either, but you get what I'm saying. So is this something that you even want to do? Think about it. Like, because sometimes people think that like the next step every time is contracting, and it isn't. I think Will brought up earlier today how like there's so many things you can get into in our industry. You can be an inspector. You can be an instructor. All right. There's all kinds of avenues you can take. Contracting isn't like always like, it's not like the next thing you have to do. All right. You can get license certifications and do all kinds of other stuff in our industry. So this isn't for everyone. Of course, we're always going to advocate for entrepreneurship, contracting, because that's just what we do. That's what I do. That's what I'm biased towards. But you have to think, is this something you want to do? It's not for everyone. It's only for a select few. I'm going to start rolling through this now. So we're faced with some deep questions to consider. Why are we getting into business? What is the why? That's going to look different for everybody. Is this something you want to do long term? Is this something you want to do for just like a few years and shut it down and then do something different? You know, I'm the kind of guy, I kind of get in my head sometimes because I'm the guy that like needs change all the time. So if I like don't like see like there's no change like or progress, like I tend to like start getting all these other ideas in my head. So like how long do you see yourself doing this? What is the why? Is this something you want to do long term? Page 11. No, this is my page 11. That's the structure, okay? So we get to the structure or the end of the structure section. Yeah, so do y'all see this page in your PDF? The dude on the steps? Oh, so do you have the full workbook? 60? 16. Oh, 16, okay. Yeah, so page 16. Again, we're calling this the crazy path to contracting, but what we were talking about earlier, contracting doesn't have to be crazy and chaotic. Like, yeah, like first starting out is hard for sure, but several years in, it doesn't have to be this crazy stuff all the time. It can be more lax. It can be toned down a little bit. So identify the parameters of your industry, opportunities, plan for opportunities. How will I leverage opportunities to grow? Like, are you gonna leverage like hiring? Like, is that an opportunity that you need to capitalize on? What systems can I implement to minimize risks? We could spend a whole hour talking about systems, but what systems do I need to implement to minimize risk and be more efficient? And those are all things that you can think about once again after the event. The last part here, the last section is the blueprint. So the blueprint is part 4. It looks like this on your PDF. All right, so we made a contract with ourselves. We established what a solid foundation ought to look like. And then we established a structure. So that's something that we need to figure out individually is, again, are we building a 1-story? Are we building a 3-story or a skyscraper, right? We established a structure, and now you get to the blueprint. The blueprint is the last thing that we get to. How many of you look at blueprints on a regular basis, right? It shows the end result, right? Or it shows the entire scope of everything, right? And then you can start acting on it, right? So a blueprint shows the end result before the work begins, and your blueprint is a visual and written representation of your vision and goals and actionable plans. So the end result of a successful business, right? You're going to look at, it says the roof is your yearly and quarterly milestones, the framing, revenue and profit goals, and then the foundation, vision and mission statements. And so the rest of the part 4 that you have with the blueprint, it's all kinds of personal questions that you have to fill out. So I'm not going to like waste time going through that. But if you would, the last section I want to go through in this workbook is actually the flywheel. So if you can go, I think it's the very last slide on your PDF. Let me pull it up. I can find it. Okay, it's, I think it's like, it looks like this. All right, so as you can see, this is the Energize Us EDU flywheel that we've created for our business, right? And you can see, real quick, Energize Us EDU, non-for-profit trade school, pre-apprenticeship, all that. Not gonna get into that, but that's basically, if you wanna know more about Energize Us EDU and what we do, talk to me or Will after. But the flywheel, it has the school in the middle, but then you also have, see all this other stuff on the side? You have, media and publishing, events, partnerships and sponsorships, all that. But have y'all ever seen or heard of the Disney flywheel? The Walt Disney flywheel? Walt Disney, when he had Disney in his head, he wrote down on a napkin, like back in the 40s or 50s or something. He wrote a flywheel and, well, I don't think I can pull it up. Walt Disney. Yeah, so he had a flywheel that looks kind of like this one that you see. But it's crazy because he had everything mapped out and then it all came to fruition. So he had this idea, right, of Disney as a whole. And then you have all these branches like you see, and it was like theme parks, movies, music, this and that on a napkin. And then look where we are today with Disney, how crazy it is. And so the purpose of all of this, the purpose of this blueprint workbook and specifically the flywheel is that you have to be able to see things for it to come to life. All right, and so that's what the flywheel helps accomplish. Let's see here. Yeah, so the flywheel is going to help us envision our business, right? What we want to do with it. And when we envision something, it helps us have it come to life. And I don't know, I'm going to close with this on our workbook, but I don't know if you've ever seen the Conor McGregor video. I've seen it a few times on social media where he had some fight, and then before the fight, a journalist asked him a question. And he was like, yeah, he's gonna throw a right hook, and then I'm gonna do this in the third round. All right. And then they have the fight, and then literally exactly what McGregor said happened. The dude did it, and then he did what said he was gonna do in the same round. And then post fight, I was trying to look for it earlier, and then post fight interview, the same journalist came back and asked him. He's like, hey, remember I asked you a few days ago about how you thought this was all gonna go down? He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you said he was going to throw a right hook and then you were going to do this. He's like, yep. Mm-hmm. He's like, and that's what happened. He's like, yeah. And he's like, how did you do that? And his whole thing was he envisioned everything before it even happened. So then when it did happen, he was already ready. And that can kind of get into some weird stuff, right? I'm not trying to say that at all. But the point is, if you can envision this stuff, yeah, it helps, and it's going to take you a long way, right? Especially if you get around other people like we are today with all this. So,
what I'm learning in addition to all this stuff is what you're talking about, building and everything like that, building skyscrapers or this or that.
Yeah.
And in my 1 year, not even 1 year yet, but I've had Tennessee Electric for 3 years. I started off as a how-to tool review, kind of and everything like that. Then I started having a bunch of people in the community reaching out. Screw this company, I want you to do my install. And I'm like, all right, hell yeah, side money. And then it became something more and more kind of like what you had said. And then I started getting hit with commercial work and rewiring this and that and everything like that. I was ready to take it all on, got stressed and over my head, like literally how you were describing your friend sick. I just felt like I just didn't have time for anything. My ladies over here you're always on your phone. I've got full-time social media. You guys know how that is. It's a freaking drag in itself and everything. But just learn to be faithful in the little bit. Just be really, find the stuff that you're really good at, the bread and butter. Like me, it's panel upgrades all day. That's just something I'm just freaking, I can just do. I can look at it, I can get a quote and stuff. And now, as I'm getting better at that stuff, I'm seeing how I can apply this to what I'm already doing great at, and eventually just keep building that house or building that structure.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's really good.
Everything you share.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. Real quick, 'cause I'm already over time. Don't clap yet.
No.
No, don't clap yet. No, the pricing. So real quick, I'm already over time a little bit, but this was a topic we were supposed to discuss during this time is pricing. So we're just gonna hit that real quick. If you just pass the packets around. Yeah, so that concludes the workbook part. Now everything's just gonna be on this little 2-page packet. Let me get mine out real quick. Did I keep one for myself? Can I grab one from you, Nick? I think I gave all of them to you. Hey, I'm gonna grab one. Just give me one. All right, so with price, so now we're getting into a whole nother topic. And again, you could spend an hour or two just talking about pricing. Okay, but with the little time we have, we're just gonna go through this real quick. Let's see, go to pricing. All right, so this pricing worksheet, we've used this with our contractors and our build association, and this is by no means an end-all be-all. This is only a template. This is just to help. So you're gonna see some percentages in here, and that's gonna vary from business to business. If you wanna know your exact numbers and what you should price an hour, service work, this is service work pricing, it's gonna take more than just 10, 15 minutes, okay? So this is just a good starting point if you don't know what you should do as far as pricing goes. All right, but pricing, I would say, is arguably the number one question contractors ask about. I mean, definitely top 3. I know whenever I make certain content or certain posts, most people are, if they have questions, they're asking about pricing, square foot pricing. This isn't square foot pricing, but it's all revolved around pricing. And why is that? Because it's super important. That's what's gonna, outside of what we just talked about, the money flow, the cash flow, that's what's gonna keep, the ship afloat, right? Because you don't wanna overcharge people, right? But you also don't want to, and you wanna be competitive, okay? So there's an aspect to being competitive, but you also don't wanna undercut yourself, right? So pricing, the reason it's talked about so much is because it's super important. And I would say some of us, several of you here, we've been on the phone before talking about pricing, in the past year or two, right? And so, that's a topic and a conversation that a lot of us have all the time with each other, all right? Pricing is going to look different for everyone. For example, Pristine, you're out, and Nick, you're out in Southern California, where a lot of times, true or not, a panel swap just isn't some panel, just take the old one off, put the new one in. That's how it is here in Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's just usually an indoor panel in a garage or an outdoor panel, and you just rip it out and just put the new one in. But what I see in California, you got to do all this stucco stuff, and then you got to replace the whole service sometimes, right? It's a huge job. So a panel swap, just taking the old, putting in the new, that's going to be way different in pricing, probably between us, right? We're 1 year in California, and then 2, the scope of work is just completely different. So sometimes whenever we start talking about panel swaps and other guys around the country, it's I can tell you what I charge, but that's not going to accurately reflect what you're doing. I don't know, what you're doing. So the pricing is going to look different for everyone. Same thing with whole house rewires and new construction. A house in California is worth a bajillion times more than a house where I live, same size. So as business owners, we have to know our numbers, right? As business owners, we need to know what the heck's going on in our business when it comes to our numbers and money. And the one thing that, I used to get irked at is people, you can't just charge what someone else does for something. And a lot of people have gotten into that where they just ask and then they either shoot the same price or a little bit under, but they don't even know their own costs. They're charging based on what their friend does or 2 or 3 other contractors, oh, I guess that's what I should charge, right? So you can't just charge solely based on what someone else does. Again, there is the aspect of being competitive. So, if you're gonna charge a boatload of money for something, get ready for a no. We can charge whatever we want to, but the customer has the right to say no, all right? So when we talk about pricing, all right, we can charge however much we want to. That's the freedom that we have. We can price a job however we want, all right? Someone asks us for a bid or an estimate, we can throw whatever number we want to, and we have the freedom to do that. But again, the customer, which this just seems like common sense, but so many contractors get mad when a customer says no. And there may be more to it, more to the story. But they start talking about how good they are, they just don't want to pay that. It's like, well, dude, like, is it possible that like you're way higher? And they can say no to you. Like, value dictates the price, right? So let's, I didn't know there was a train down there. Real quick, these steps, all right? So you see the blanks right here. You'll see, what do you pay yourself? You'll see add 30%, all that stuff, right? So that, again, just a template. This isn't like a final number because your overhead may be different from like 20 or 25, 30%. These are just like averages, okay? But what you do, if you want to get a ballpark hourly rate for service work, put your hourly rate for your apprentice or you or whatever, right? And then we have the 30, 30, 30, 10 rule. So basically, you go down in each category, and every percentage is based off your hourly, all right? So write down your hourly. Let's just say 30 bucks an hour, okay? 30 bucks an hour, add 30% for taxes. It may be a little bit less than that, okay? Like more in the 20s. But take 30% of 30. Then you get to overhead, right? We have solo, crew, and then multi, right? Different percentages. Once again, that's gonna vary based on after you calculate your overhead. All right, but you can pick a percentage, right? Figure out what your overhead is, then you're gonna get a total. You go to the second page, the average, I hate saying this because there's really no rule or standard, but like business owners, you typically hear 30% profit being thrown around, right? Like some are gonna be like more than that, great. Some may be less, right? 30% profit. So take 30% of your hourly. Remember, we're going for each category back to your hourly rate. So you're gonna get that and then the 10% buffer or contingency. So what I do when I price a job, it depends on the type of job, but I always add 10% in there as a buffer because you're gonna forget something. I don't like circling back to customers for a million change orders. Like, yeah, sometimes there is gonna be change orders, but like little knick-knack stuff, like say like 5 or 6 little things pop up. Well, I already accounted for that with my 10% contingency, right? So 10% of your hourly, and then you're gonna get a ballpark hourly rate. Simple. Like, that's just a good place to start if you don't know what you should be charging for service work. And back to like the freedom to be able to charge what you wanna charge. Customers can say no to that. So if you wanna pay yourself like 500 bucks an hour before all this, and then after you do all your overhead and taxes, you're gonna be like at $1,000 an hour. Like no one's gonna pay that, So you can charge whatever you want to. You can try to pay yourself what you want, but again, the customer has the right to say no. And that's also in the same breath of saying not every customer is your customer, right? Like, yeah, like we all understand that like there's customers that you don't wanna work with, right? But also at the same time, we have to make sure that we're in check, right? Because so many times contractors just like to throw the blame on the customer all the time, right? It's, oh, the customer doesn't want this or they don't want value. It's like, well, maybe that is the case. I don't know, but is it the case that like you're all jacked up on your numbers and stuff? Because like you can't expect like a small shop who hasn't been around long, right? You have a company who's been in 20, 30 years and they're a bigger company and they throw out a number, $20,000 for this rewire, but then the 2-year guy throws out like 20,000. It's like, well, hold on, like something's not adding up. So you see what I'm saying? Like people are gonna decide who they wanna go with for whatever reasons, right? And at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is a great thing because to a degree, I mean, we can control our own destiny, right? We can dictate how this is gonna go with our business. All right. Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you said question.
Not my son's name.
And if this doesn't make sense, if this pricing worksheet doesn't make sense, any pricing numbers, whatever, consult a CPA. We can help through our Build Association, but if you need help with numbers, I'd recommend contacting like a financial advisor or CPA. I want to say thank you for Will letting us use this workbook as a kind of just as a presentation for our for this time. Again, it's an abbreviated version. It's like half of it. So if y'all are interested in talking more about this stuff, right? Anything we talked about today, you can talk to me or talk to Will anytime during the event. I'm going to be heading out after we're done tonight. I got to get back home. My wife is 38 and a half weeks pregnant. So I was just praying to God that we could just get through this hour leading up to this. So yeah, thank you guys. It's an honor and privilege to be able to speak on behalf of Leviton on contracting and on anything business related. So I appreciate Leviton, and yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to whoever's next. Sydney. Okay.
Thank you, Cameron.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to take like a 5-minute break? Does anyone need bathroom, coffee? I know about an hour after lunch you start realizing you don't need coffee. Let's do 5 minutes and then you back for.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's go. How much? You're out? Oh, you thirsty? Here's water.